Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Harrah's Hoosier Park here in the Dan Patch studio. Michael Chamberlain, Rick Moore, and Jacob Reinheimer. We're like the big three. It's not quite Yalta, but we're here ready to talk about the 150th renewal of the Kentucky Derby. And this Derby has a little bit of everything, I think, for us. We've got two horses that are very well considered in Fierceness, the defending Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, and Sierra Leone, who is the second choice in the morning line, and you've also got a very nice complement of long shots in here too. I think it's a very, very complete race.
I think a lot of times you have a Derby and you wonder, who's going to be the favorites. There's 4 or 5 horses. There's 2 horses that really have separated themselves, at least on paper,
yes,
from the rest of the field, I believe, anyway, as far as the betting will take place on Saturday. And now, obviously, that's Fierceness and Sierra Leone. And I do think they are, 2 very, very tough horses come Saturday.
Well, that's the thing. If you're someone who wants to go against the favorites, too, once you get beyond those 2, it's a wide array of horses that you're looking at, and it can be tough to talk yourself into some of these horses, and I think that's what's so interesting about this Derby field. We have those 2 standouts, as I mentioned, and then after that, you can kind of poke some holes in everyone, and you're kind of having to talk yourself into some of these horses, and it's just one of those races where if you don't like the favorites, and I know one of the favorites I'm not a big fan of in Fierceness, it can be trying to kind of put this puzzle together that is the rest of this Derby field.
Exactly, and let us take a look at the field. We already have a scratch in here of number 9, Encino, and as a result of that, the first of the also eligibles, number 21, Epic Ride, has drawn into the field, and there is one also eligible remaining. That would be number 22, Mugatu, in the event of a second scratch, but that has not happened as of Wednesday afternoon when we are filming this. As we take a look, Fierceness, as I said, the defending Breeders' Cup Juvenile champion, is the 5-2 favorite. Now in post 16, but still number 17 as everyone moves in one. Sierra Leone is 3-1, the second choice, and the third choice is number 4, Catching Freedom. And all 3 of those horses won their last prep race. Fierceness in the Florida Derby, Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass Stakes, and Catching Freedom in the Louisiana Derby. Then you have a couple of 10-1 shots in Just a Touch, who was the runner-up to Sierra Leone, and Forever Young, who is trying to become the first Japanese horse to win the Kentucky Derby, winner of the UAE Derby in Meydan over there in the Middle East, in Dubai rather. And it's going to be an interesting betting race, I think, regardless of how you do it. But I know you two guys are kind of on the same one here, so I'll let you go ahead and state your case for Sierra Leone.
Okay, well, I will mention the horse that just drawn in, Epic Ride. He's only had 5 races. He only got beat 6 lengths by Sierra Leone. Just kind of shows you, after the 2 favorites. Yeah. A lot of these horses, they all kind of look alike. They've taken turns beating each other.
If Epic Ride hits the ticket, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, the horse, lightly raced horse, we'll see. Comes out of the 20 hole, but we'll see. Hey, Jacob and I both do like Sierra Leone. And I was actually talking to Jacob earlier this morning. I don't know if I've ever been as high on a Derby horse as I am Sierra Leone. You look at he's got 4 starts. He's got 3 wins. Interestingly, the only race he lost was to Door Knock by a nose. And you talk about beautifully bred, gun runner out of a Malibu Moon mare. I mean, you talk about bred to be a racehorse. And this horse, I like the way he does it. I thought his race in the Bluegrass was an incredible effort. He had the outside 10 hole, not terrible, but was way back and made a big move on a speed favoring track. I think everyone would admit Keeneland was pretty speed favoring this meet, and just blew by the field. And I think this horse is only getting better. Some people say, well, he's too close to the rail. I say, well, he's going to, if he's out of the 20 hole or the 2 hole, he's going to go straight to the rail. Why not just go right to the rail from the 2 hole rather than from farther outside? So, Tyler Gaffleone having another great year. Chad Brown. What can you say? I mean, well, this horse was bred to be a good one, and he is.
Yeah, and Chad Brown still looking for that first Derby, and he's got a live one here in Sierra Leone as the 3-1 second choice. And I agree with Rick. I've been on this horse really ever since that Remsen, the one defeat that he had.
Yes.
And it was by a nose, and I thought it was more a defeat just out of greenness by Sierra Leone than it actually was Dornoch coming back to beat him in that spot. And I think he's only taken steps forward ever since that. That Risen Star effort is an effort that just stood out to me on the Derby trail. We did the Road to the Derby all winter long, and that race just stood out to me because he was forced way wide on the turn, swung out to the grandstands pretty much at the top of the lane, and just kept coming. Wintrack Phantom really had things completely his own way on the front end. Sierra Leone had every excuse to get beat in that race, just kept chugging there at Fairgrounds, steps up to the bluegrass, really wins convincingly there, which I thought that was a massive effort. So I'm only feeling stronger and stronger about Sierra Leone, and there's just no other horse that scares me in this race when it comes to Sierra Leone. I got to be honest, I'm kind of like Rick. This is as confident as I've been in a Derby selection in a long, long time.
You know, and one comment is you talked about the Fairgrounds race, the Risen Star. You do not win races at Fairgrounds going wide and sweeping wide in that
true.
final. You really don't. I mean, that's not how you win races at the Fairgrounds. And this horse did that. And that kind. I'm with you, Jacob. That made me a believer. And then seeing him come back in the bluegrass, I thought, wow, this horse is just getting better and better and better.
And oddly enough, the bluegrass does not produce a lot of Kentucky Derby winners, which you would think it would be, a much more successful prep race as far as going forward to the first Saturday in May. I have Sierra Leone third. I am on number 8, Just a Touch, who was the horse that finished second to Sierra Leone in that Bluegrass Stakes. Only 3 starts. Won at first asking at the Fairgrounds, and then was second in the Grade 3 Gotham behind Deterministic, who is not in this race, and was second behind Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass in that last effort at Keeneland. I think I'm going to make a comparison here for Just a Touch. He is coming into this race almost exactly on the same trajectory that Mage came into this race last year. He's getting better with each successive start as far as the speed figures are concerned. The Gotham, that race was he was 7-8 wide in that race too, and he just ran out of time to try to get to Deterministic. Just a Touch led the Bluegrass in the late stages, and I don't think he needs to be on the lead. I think Track Phantom needs to be on the lead. I think Dornoch needs to go from the rail, and obviously Fierceness is going to be up with the leaders. So if those 3 go and set really wicked fractions, someone's going to be coming from off the pace, and if you are a little closer to that pace, but not right on it, you might be positioned very well. Now, yes, Mage came from, I believe it was 15th or 16th last year, from well behind to win the Kentucky Derby. But I think that Just a Touch could get a nice middle position, or just maybe a little forwardly placed, maybe 5th or 6th, right off that pace. And if he gets first run at everybody, I think this horse wins. Florent Giroux is riding for trainer Brad Cox. And talk about the breeding, by Justify, who is a Triple Crown winner, out of a Tappet mare. This horse is bred to run all week, never mind all day.
Well, I will agree. You can certainly make a case, as you just did, rightfully so, and a horse that is getting better, lightly raced, getting better. I just put a couple other horses, and I have nothing negative to say about the horse at all. I just came up with a couple other horses that I preferred to him. If he won it, would I be surprised? A little bit, because I'm such a big believer in Sierra Leone, but good case for you.
Well, and I am intrigued because Brad Cox sends another one in here, Catching Freedom, rather, and this was the first horse I left off my ticket. You thought pretty highly of him. You ended up putting him second on your ticket. This was a horse I expected to get a play up here, and Rick's the only one who throws him on his ticket.
Catching Freedom is actually my 5th choice as well. We were talking, in the event of scratches, who's the next horse we want to put in. The Catching Freedom, the 4, is mine.
I thought that Catching Freedom, he caught my eye, pardon the pun, in the Louisiana Derby, way back,
Yes.
17 lengths back at one point, and got up to get the win. He's got Flavian Prat aboard by the Great Sire Constitution. I think he's going to be back, but I think he's going to get a good trip. Another one, very lightly raced, only 3 races this year. 2 wins in a second. I think he's coming into this race obviously as good as he possibly can. And I don't think the 4 hole is going to bother him at all, because he's going to be pretty far back, and I just thought that last race, to me, he caught my eye, and I couldn't. Before that, he was third to Sierra Leone and Track Phantom. So, he's done himself no harm at all as far as I'm concerned coming into the Derby.
And let's talk a little bit about the favorite, Fierceness, who none of us picked. And Jacob left off the top four entirely. I have Fierceness second, and Rick, you have Fierceness third. Now, and then that last race in Florida at Gulfstream, the Florida Derby, was visually impressive. A very strong win. He got a 110 Beyer speed figure for that victory. But Bellamy Road did that too. And Bellamy Road was nowhere to be seen come the wire at in the Derby back in 2005. And I don't know if the same situation can develop here because again, there's going to be some speed with Track Phantom and with Dornoch going, or as we expect to go. And I think Fierceness is going to be up with them. So, it could be he just gets a little cooked. And I think he's still good enough to hang on to be a part of the proceedings here. But it's just. Everything has to go perfectly for him to win, and I can't pick a horse based on that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think he's going to be part of it. He was visually very impressive in the Florida Derby. I don't think he's going to get that kind of trip.
Yeah.
Not here in the Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby, obviously a mile and a quarter. I think, you got to have a lot of talent, a lot of ability, but you have to save as much energy as you possibly can throughout the race. And I think Fierceness is going to be forced to use some of that energy early to get good position. He's coming from the 17 hole. He's not going to drop back. He wants to be close to the pace. He's going to have to clear a lot of horses going into the first turn. I think he's going to have to use some of that gas going into the first turn. I think he's extremely talented. I've got him third on my ticket. You've got him second. But I'm like you. I just don't think that's not going to be the best trip in the world from the 17 hole.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing for me. I mean, he was left completely alone on the lead on the Florida Derby, had things completely his own way. You put $5 million in the most prestigious horse race there is in North America on the line. That's not going to happen. He's just not going to get things his own way like he did in that Florida Derby. And as visually impressive as he was in the Florida Derby, it was kind of as flat as he was in the Holy Bull, and that race just sticks out to me where, really just had nothing for Hades. He let Domestic Product go by him as well in the lane there during the Holy Bull as well. And that's just kind of the story of Fierceness. He's a little bit Jekyll and Hyde. When he's good, he's incredible. When he's bad, he's just kind of okay. You even go back to his 2-year-old campaign. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in dominant fashion by 6.5, and then in the Champagne was just nowhere to be found. So it's just too much of a risk for me. I think if he's there, he runs his best race. He probably wins it on Saturday. And if he doesn't, I just don't know if he's going to be a factor. So that's why I opted to just leave him off entirely.
And you mentioned Domestic Product. You have that horse third at 30-1.
Yeah, for that exact reason. If you draw a line through the Remsen last year and that sloppy going at Aqueduct, the 2 starts for his 3-year-old campaign. He's been very, very good. Finished second to Hades, as I mentioned, getting around Fierceness in the stretch there, and then wins the Tampa Bay Derby when he's getting bumped in the lane. So the 2 starts have been really good. He's that kind of horse that can stalk just off the pace, which I think is really valuable when it comes to the Kentucky Derby if you expect things to get hot up front. And I think he'll sit just off the pace. I think Jad Brown's got a really potent duo here with Sierra Leone and Domestic Product, and you're getting 30-1 on Domestic Product off those 2 starts that I've really liked. I think he's got the right running style. I think he's getting better right now, and I like the value right now for Domestic Product.
Your value horse appears to be Mystic Dan, coming out of the number 3 post position, Rick.
It is, and to me, the race has really become maybe the track to become the best as far as pre Kentucky Derby races, prep races, are the races from Oaklawn Park. I think those fields have been really, really tough. And look, we haven't talked about him, but Muth is not going to be in the Kentucky Derby, as we all know. It's going to be interesting. Whoever wins the Kentucky Derby is going to meet up with Muth.
A fresh Muth, as a matter
in the Preakness. I thought Muth was incredible in the Arkansas Derby. He blew me away. And look, he would probably be my Derby choice if he was in here, quite honestly. Mystic Dan, a nice third-place finish and took a lot of money in that race. He was 4-1 in the Arkansas Derby. He wins the Southwest, the race before that. So, and he's got, you talk about guys that are, maybe unheralded, doesn't get all the press that they should. I think Brian Hernandez is one of those jockeys. I really like Brian Hernandez. I think he puts horses in a great position to win races, and he will do this horse no harm at all. I think Brian Hernandez is a big asset to Mystic Dan, and I think his horse got a big shot to get on the Superfecta ticket.
My long shot in here is number 18, Stronghold, at 20-1, the winner of the Santa Anita Derby. And this horse is getting completely ignored. I haven't heard one word about this horse the entirety of the Derby lead up here, and broke the maiden at Churchill Downs, I will add, on October the 1st, going a mile. It's a one-turn mile at Churchill Downs. Since then has been second twice and has won twice, including that Santa Anita Derby victory. And, you know, it's only it was an 8-horse race, but he still had to overcome some traffic trouble, and he still had to bull his way to the lead in that race and ended up beating out Imagination, who I also believe is going to the Preakness coming up in a couple of weeks, but also won the Sunland Derby. And he finished second to Nisos in the Bob Hope at Del Mar back in November. And Nisos is another one that Baffert has that is supposed to be really good, and unfortunately is sidelined now. But he's faced some tough stuff. I know those fields out in California aren't necessarily the biggest, but I think that he certainly could be a factor in this race. And I think that Stronghold at 20-1, I'll put that one on my ticket and take my chances.
Yeah, and being ridden by Antonio Fraser, who has really, really come on as far as jockeys on the West Coast are concerned. I think he's now considered one of the best riders on the West Coast. He's really developed a great reputation out there, and he's riding for all the big trainers and getting a lot of top horses. And I'm normally the California guy. I've always been the guy that likes the horses coming from the Santa Anita Derby. You talk about visually catching your eye. That race just didn't do it for me for whatever reason. And look, there's nothing to 6 starts, 3 wins, 3 seconds. So 18 hole didn't give me a little.
Yeah, that may not necessarily have been the best draw for this horse altogether. But again, he doesn't necessarily have to go to the front. And if he's a little wide, it could have him out there in some clear air out there to the outside as well. So I didn't think that it was the worst spot he could possibly be in. But again, it's also not the best spot he could possibly be in.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you and I talked about it on the road to the Derby as well with the California prep races. You kind of mentioned it with the shorter fields out there. Obviously, the circumstances around the Bob Baffert situation, that's another topic for another Derby video. But, just for that reason, I didn't have a strong grasp on Stronghold. So I went a different direction. But like you said, he's done absolutely nothing wrong. I certainly can't fault you at all for putting him on your ticket at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like you were talking about leading off our video here. Michael, after you get past the first 2, you can make cases for a lot of these horses. You may make case for another horse to win the Derby, and you can go right down the line and make cases for a lot of these horses. When they're having their best day, who knows what can happen.
Absolutely. And the one horse that we do need to talk about is Jacob's second pick, number 11, Forever Young, the invader from Japan. Last year, Derma Sotogake was my top pick, finished 6th after a dreadful start. He still ran a very good race and finished 6th.
He did.
Which was, I thought, a good credit to him, and it foreshadowed the second place finish to Wida Barrio in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So again, the Japanese contingent is very strong here. 2 horses with the 10, T.O. Password, and the 11, Forever Young, who I've heard a lot of people up in Kentucky is looking very good. And Jacob, you have that one second.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I thought this one had your name written all over it.
Really.
I know how firmly you were on Derma Sotogake last year. I thought he had your name all over him. And undefeated through 5 starts, he's done absolutely everything right to this point. He's won in dominant fashion by 7. He's won a battle in the Saudi Arabia Derby there as well by a head. So he's done everything right. Followed it up with a win in the UAE Derby there. It's going to come, right? One of these Japanese horses is going to come. They're going to win the Derby. It's on the way, and we can all just see it coming. The writing's on the wall for this.
They're winning all over the world. The Japanese-bred horses are winning all over the world. So, yeah, it's going to happen. Look, neither one of these horses has ever lost a race. 7 for 7, right?
That's true.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they perform. I do like, we were talking about horses. If you add your top 4, one other horse I do kind of like is Honor Marie, the 7 horse, who was a second place finisher to Catching Freedom in the fairgrounds at Louisiana Derby. I thought ran a real big race. Again, another horse, 5 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds. Has done very little wrong, and Ben Curtis going to get the mount on that one. And Again, if Anne Marie, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit the board.
And Jacob has that one fourth.
Yeah, I threw him fourth on my ticket. He's one of those horses where I think he's going to need the pace to fall apart a little bit. He is kind of a stone-cold closer, but he's got to win over Churchill Downs. Going back to his 2-year-old campaign, he's actually got a pair of wins over the Churchill Downs service, and he's coming out of the same races with Sierra Leone in the Risen Star, where he just got shuffled too far out of it. Still made up ground in the lane. Similar story with the Louisiana Derby. Couldn't outkick Catching Freedom in that spot, but I like those horses equally, and I think you're going to get a better price on Honor Marie. That's why I threw him on my ticket.
So, as we take a look again at the numbers here, I have it 8-17, 2-18, Rick with 2-4, 17, and 3, and Jacob 2-11, 15, 7. A couple horses, obviously, we haven't talked about. Are any of those that possibly worth mentioning?
Dornock's the big question mark for me. He gets the rail. I don't love that. You don't love a horse from the rail in the situation. This is a horse that we talked about how he fended off Sierra Leone back in the Remsen last fall. Came back with a win in the Fountain of Youth. That was a race kind of decimated by scratches. It wasn't the most visually impressive win, and then just never quite fired in the Bluegrass. This is actually a full brother, though, to Mage, who won the Kentucky Derby last year. Have to love the pedigree. Good magic out of a big brown mare. Love that Kentucky Derby pedigree. So he's got the ability. I think this is a horse that we expect to see more out of. Whether it'll come on the first Saturday of May, I'm not sure, but you're getting 20-1 on Dornock, and I think if you would have mentioned that last fall, when he won the Remsen, you'd be pretty surprised by that. This was a horse that was thought pretty highly of.
One other horse that I would talk about and mention, Michael, is number 6, Just Steel, the coach.
Yeah.
D. Wayne Lucas has this one, and again, a horse by Justify.
Right.
So he's beautifully bred. Second to Muth.
Within 2 legs, as a matter of fact.
That is, right there. It tells you quite a bit, I think. He was wide in both turns in the Rebel, so you kind of throw that one out. He was second to Mystic Dan in the Southwest, and I think he's going to get a good trip from the 6th hole. And and he's probably got more experience than a lot of the horses here. He's been out 11 times, so the coach may strike again.
That's something I love about D. Wayne Lucas. Just a good old-school horseman. He can keep these horses sharp, even with 11 starts on the board. That's something you just don't see very much of with these young 3-year-olds getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. So I just have so much respect for him and the job he does. Just a good old-school horseman.
And that's a good way to describe it, and he believes in racing his horses. And he'll take on anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Yes,
he may not win, but he's going to go in and get against you.
An interesting story there is Keith Asmussen is riding Just Steel, and Steve Asmussen has Track Phantom in here, who we all expect to go to the front. Mm-hmm. They are adding blinkers for Track Phantom, which went to the lead in the Louisiana Derby and finished 4th. Ended up catching Freedom and Honor Marie. Everyone those horses kind of ran by, but this horse is going to go to the front. And let's just say Dornock can't get out from the rail, and Fierceness may have any kind of an issue. I don't think he's going to do a war emblem in here and wire everybody, but, if anyone's a likely candidate to do that, I think it's the 12 horse.
I do believe he's going to be on the lead. I mean, I think we all would agree. If we could put a bet down on who's going to be on top at the quarter or the half-mile pole, I think it'd be Track Phantom.
How fast do you think that pace is going to be?
I think it's the Derby. And these riders are keyed up. These horses are keyed up. 45 and change.
I think so. To 45 and change is about right.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the $5 million purse, a fairly new addition here to the Kentucky Derby. So if it's not prestigious enough, we're going to put $5 million on the line. These guys are going to be aggressive. They're going to be going for it right from the jump.
And one horse we didn't talk about that we should mention is the winner of the Jeff Ruby, Endlessly, number 14. Now, this was a horse that when they won the Jeff Ruby, they said they were not going to go in the Kentucky Derby. But then they got a little bit of Derby fever and decided to go in here. 30-1 on the morning line. Umberto Rispoli is riding for trainer Michael McCarthy. I know Two Phils was second.
I was just going to mention
last
Two
year
Phils
out of that same
raced
race,
his heart out.
Yes, he did.
Raced
Because he
his
was
heart
right
out.
on that pace, and he held off Mage as long as he could.
An incredible Two Phils. Undying respect for that race he ran in the Derby. Incredible.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me is the difference between Two Phils and Endlessly is Two Phils was willing to be right on the front. Endlessly, he has a little bit more of that turf racing style, which is kind of where you see where he's went back and forth between the all-weather track and the turf. And I think he's one who's going to need things to go his way, as opposed to Two Phil's really kind of took matters into his own hands and was right on the front end and almost got the job done last year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our look at the Kentucky Derby coming up on Saturday, the 150th renewal. Here at Hoosier Park, we're going to have a big Saturday as well. Jacob, why don't you tell us what we got going on?
Yeah, early post time for our Hoosier Park card. Worth noting, if you're going to get out here and watch the Churchill Downs action, get out here and watch the Hoosier Park action as well. We're going to kick things off at 4 o'clock. Take a little break halfway through our card for the Kentucky Derby itself, and then we'll finish with our last 6 races on the card. But we have got a great day planned. We've got mega bets. We've got a punch board promotion with over $1,000 worth of prizes, and that we're also going to have the hat contest. You guys are going to be kind of taking the crowd through that as we have the hat contest right here on the Terrace Showroom stage. That'll serve as the night drive at 3:30. But just a lot of things going on. We're going to have great decor. We're going to have a rose giveaway, stuff like that. So if you can't be to Churchill Downs for the Derby, make sure to get out here to Hoosier Park.
Great buffet all day long, $49.95. We got nerdy barbecues. Can be right out front, outside the front door as you come in. I mean, we're blowing it out. Jacob's got he pulled out all the strings for Derby Day, I'm telling you.
Yes, we are going to have one fantastic first Saturday in May. We'd like to thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our Hoosier Park Racing channel. For Jacob Reinheimer and Rick Moore, I'm Michael Chamberlain, wishing the best of luck to you all.